you had asked some questions, I answered them, and then at the end of my video, which is what this is going to be a response to, I asked you some questions and you answered them in the comments section. And the only issues I have, I'm glad that you've read the whole Bible. I think that's great. I understand that you already explained that you think that God is omnipotent, although there's some other arguments that you've been trying to make that I've been kind of saying that there's some contradiction in that. Like having to have us have free will in order. I mean, yeah, common sense says that you have to have evil, you have to have two choices in order to choose to have a relationship with God, and you've made this argument as far as that God had to create evil in order for there to be free will. And but then in other places you said God doesn't create evil, so kind of hazy there. Nonetheless, all of this seems kind of silly when you're talking about a God who's all-powerful. It just seems to me, which granted, we're just human beings, so just the fact that we're even debating this is silly, because this is a God we're talking about, and his ways are far beyond our ways, or our understanding. At least that's what the Christians always say, usually. But it just seems to me like there could have been a better way. I mean, if you go back to Adam and Eve, if you were to believe that story, everything was fine. Everything was fine until all of a sudden there was a tree of knowledge in the middle of everything that apparently God felt the need to have there, and then God, for whatever reason, disappeared, as if to, I don't know, maybe be testing Adam and Eve, to see if they would obey him. But it seems to me that if this all-powerful, all-knowing God knew that they were going to disobey him, because he would know the future, he would know what's going to happen, and why set up something that's going to be a problem anyway? I mean, maybe the tree of knowledge just existed because it was supposed to just exist, just like God just exists. But that brings me to my first problem with one of the answers to the questions, or the next answer. I think it was number 3. Something about, is it okay to punish people for what they believe or they don't believe? And you said yes. And that just floors me. So, like, if somebody doesn't believe in fairies, should we stone them to death? I mean, that was a pretty straightforward question. Now, maybe you answered it based off of where you thought I was going with it, in that, does God have the right to punish people for not believing in him? And you say yes, but I say, how do you wrap your mind around that? How do you call that right, morally? Especially in the way that God does punish people for not believing in him. I mean, he wants us to be wise. He wants us to use our brains that he gave us. There's a lot of talk in the Bible of him, wanting us to be powerful and knowledgeable. Powerful too. To overcome the restraints of, if you're a slave, become free. If you're, this, become that. And, the people that he picks to do things in the, like Daniel and Samson, and a lot of, they're always like perfect specimens. Not only are they beautiful, but they're the strongest, they're the smartest, and you got to start asking yourself about that. I mean, this is a impartial God who picks just the best of the best of the best. And, but he wants us to be thinkers. He wants us to think, but yet, if there is no logical reason to believe that he exists, then, if we can't get ourselves to believe that because logically it doesn't work, then we should go to hell for eternity for that. And you find that morally okay. I don't get that. I don't understand. You have to explain to me how that's okay. Because look at it this way: believing in something is almost the same as, let's put it this way: believing in someone. Okay, because what you're talking about with the Christians and having a relationship with God. Well, when a lot of atheists, and this is my own story really, but as an atheist, you set out to, well, if I'm going to have a relationship with God, I need to get to know God. Color me old-fashioned, but I like to know who I'm having a relationship with. So you look into it. So what else do you have to go on but the Bible? You know, and the people, the other people who believe in God, you look at them and you ask them what they think and what they've deduced. But when it comes down to it, you have to think for yourself. You have to read that yourself. You have to study it yourself. Because you're the only one that can decide if this is morally accurate or not, if this is right or not, if this God is really the truth or not. And, you know, I don't know. I just, I don't see it after read. There's so many contradictions, you know, which brings me into my next thing. And I think I lost my train of thought on what I was saying, but maybe I'll come back to that. But you said also that you believe that the Old Testament God is the same as Jesus Christ, which I think most Christians believe that. Definitely Catholics believe that, because I think they were the one that came up with the idea of the Trinity, or what have you. But, I mean, if your God is not a liar, and is not partial, and is not a lot of these things that he himself, in his book, that he divinely inspired, if he is not those things, then I don't know how you can still think he's a God. And I mean, if you look at the difference between the Old Testament and things that Jesus said and did, and what he was teaching, they're fundamentally different. They're totally different. It's like looking at two different beings. And I don't know how those two things can be compatible in your mind without contradicting themselves. You know, in the Old Testament, he's smoting people for stupid reasons, like, oh, well, they were teasing my prophet because he was bald, so here, let me smote all these people. And there's many other examples of that are even more suspicious in nature that we could go into. There was one guy that I'm thinking of in particular that I believe got smoted or whatever because he was gathering sticks on the wrong day or something like that. And, you know, so anyway, you know, fast forward to the New Testament, you got Jesus saying, you know, you got to be merciful and you got to forgive everybody. You don't find a contradiction in that? That's one of the most glaring things that I think most people read the Bible and look at it and they go, well, this is garbage. This God cannot be true. This God is not speaking the truth. This God's doctrine and what he says, you know, what he said here goes against what he's saying there. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you can, that's what I mean when I say I don't think you can go at Christianity with logic and still come out being a Christian. I just, I don't understand that.